unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever.
Good morning. Good morning. Is that really loud? Sounds really loud. Okay, so this probably doesn't really classify as a sermon, but I want to share an experience with you that I had, an experience that changed my outlook on life. It's kind of a long story, so I want you to sit back, relax, and hopefully you'll enjoy the story and the lesson that it taught me. All right, so Warren just read the scripture, and it's 1 Chronicles 16:34, and it says, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endures forever." It was a hot day in mid-July. The forecast was calling for temps of about 97, making it the fourth day in a row in an unusually hot spell in northern Vermont. I woke up grumpy and dragged myself through my morning routine, thoroughly dreading my day. It had been a hard year, for that matter, 2 hard years in a row, and I was tired and discouraged. Tired of fighting, tired of trying to keep up with expectations, tired of always feeling that I wasn't good enough, falling short in every way, being pulled into too many directions, tired of watching other people breeze through life, not seeming to have the same struggles that we were having, tired of everything. My husband had recently had a serious work injury that was affecting his ability to work. My washing machine had died. We had more bills than we could pay. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong, it seemed. It was putting a strain on us financially and maritally. I was feeling the pressure to hold it all together and becoming resentful of my life, my husband, and everyone else who was constantly talking about Warren's issues, always asking what the new plan of treatment was when there wasn't one, or suggesting their own ideas on how we should get through this rough patch. As most of you know, I own a landscaping business and a nursery. And on this day, like every day, I was going to spend the day gardening. I waited till Rebecca, who worked at my nursery, showed up for the day. Talked briefly with her about being sure that the plants and trees were all kept watered to help combat the heat. Then I walked to my pickup, checked to be sure that I had all my tools, and pulled the old white diesel out of the driveway towards the job. Normally, I love gardening. It's my favorite thing to do, and I love the girls that work for me, but today I dreaded every tiny bit of it. I dreaded the heat, the constant chatter of the girls, the need to be the boss for the day and get the job done, the 8 to 10 hour workday, the homeowner, but most of all, I dreaded the garden. I dreaded it all because I was only thinking about the bills, the problems that I couldn't solve, the overwhelming feeling that I was drowning, and no one seemed to notice or, for that matter, care. I felt like everyone was taking from my family and I, but not noticing that I had no more to give. I was done in every way possible, and I needed help. I arrived at the job after a quick 10-minute drive. The girls all showed up within minutes, cheery and ready to tackle the job. Their boss's attitude, however, was quite different. But I plastered a smile on my face and we walked out to the garden. Now, this was no ordinary garden. This was a disaster of epic proportions. The homeowner had recently purchased the home and had decided that they wanted to revamp the overgrown garden that had been left unattended for at least 10 years. What once had been a beautiful manicured masterpiece was now a thorny, tangled mess of every prickly plant that grows in New England. Blackberry plants that stood 12 feet tall with the thorns the size of your thumbs. Creeping barberry crawled through the underbrush of the garden with the rugosa roses planted sporadically throughout that over time had sprouted little new plants that were growing everywhere they shouldn't. As the girls and I were deciding on our plan of attack, out the back door popped the homeowner. A lady in her 50s who had recently retired and was living the life of leisure after a newly purchased Greensboro home that even had some lake frontage. It was 7 a.m. and way too early for cheery homeowners. But here she stood, in shorts, a tank top, a huge sun hat, and said, "I'm going to sit out here and watch you. I have nothing better to do tonight." Now those are the words every contractor or gardener dreads. Who wants to be supervised like that for 8 hours? You have got to be kidding me, I thought. And then I could suggest something for you to do if you were that bored, was my second thought. But I grinned at her and said, "You're welcome to watch." Inside I was fuming. Here I was struggling to make ends meet. Everything in my life seemed hard, and this woman had nothing better to do but sit and watch us dig blackberries out of her garden. All those thoughts ran through my head as the lady dragged a lounge chair around the side of her house. It was one of those ones that even had the umbrella over it. And plopped down with her book and her coffee 6 feet from the garden's edge. The day wore on ever so slowly. The sun got hotter as we plugged away, cutting a path into the heart of the garden. We worked silently. No one talked. No one dared complain with the homeowner hovering so close. But we were all wilting and despising the garden. The lady made good progress on her book and even replaced her coffee for one tall, ice-cold glass of lemonade after another, never thinking to offer us one. Noon came, we stopped for lunch, the temps hovered just over 90. We sat under the biggest tree on the lawn, savoring our lunches. We were sweaty, scratched, and scarred by the garden. 3 more hours till quitting time. Could we make it? 1 p.m., and the lady, declaring it was too hot out, headed for the coolness of the lake. She left, and we continued to plug away in the sweltering July afternoon heat, swatting blackberries, wiping sweat, and fighting the desire to quit. 2 p.m. rolled around, and it became unbearable to me and clear that we weren't going to complete the job. Today anyway, so at 2:15 I declared we were stopping for the day, much to the girls' relief. They left quickly, and I stood and surveyed our work. My mood hadn't improved. If anything, it had silently gotten worse. We had made good progress on the garden, and normally I would have been really impressed, but today I focused on what wasn't done. There was a good 10 to 12 hours worth of work still, and that meant another morning of this torture would be on the schedule for tomorrow. Yay, I thought sarcastically as I picked up a forgotten red pair of clippers and threw them in the back of my truck. Glancing in the mirror as I jumped into my truck, what I saw made me laugh a little. My ponytail was frizzy and pulled awkwardly from being caught in the roses and blackberries, making odd bunches of hair. There were tiny branches stuck haphazardly here and there. That was just my head. My shirt and arms were sweaty and dirty. Between the bloody scratches, the dirt, and the sweat, I looked somewhere between gardener and homeless. I was a mess. I was wearing boots with jeans and a cut-off t-shirt that had seen too many gardening days. I laughed at myself, realizing that I looked just as much of a mess on the outside as I felt inside. Oh well, no one's going to see me, I thought. I'm going straight home and take a long, cold shower. As I turned onto Hillcrest Road, I secretly hoped there were no nursery customers. But if there was, I was going to pull in and run to the shower. Rebecca was there anyway, so no reason for me to feel the need to talk to them. I turned into the driveway and saw a brand new BMW with California plates. Wonderful, I thought. Some out-of-stater with nothing better to do but wander around. They're the type that don't buy anything anyway. I quickly threw the truck in park and shut it off, hoping the customer, the kids, or Rebecca hadn't heard me. The chances of that were slim, I knew, but I wanted to shower before I talked to anyone. I got out and had made it halfway to the front door when around the corner of the house, Rebecca came, cheerfully stating that there was a lady here who had been waiting to talk to me. Seriously, I thought, I can't do this right now. Rebecca seemed completely unfazed by my disastrous look. She turned to go back into the nursery, expecting me to follow. I groaned. But trying to smooth my hair, I walked around the corner of the house into the nursery. I saw no lady. Maybe I can sneak back and take a quick shower, I thought, as I grudgingly walked on. Little Warren was carefully watering the shade perennials. He smiled and waved at me as I approached. Natalie had a large bouquet of flowers in her hand and smiled as she came running toward me with her pigtails flying in the air behind her. Look, Molly, I'm picking them for farmer's market tomorrow. Oh yeah, I thought. I gotta prep for that tonight. More work. My day just gets better and better. Still seeing no lady, I walked on, noting a few wilting plants, mentally taking in what needed more water. More work for me to do. Seeing Rebecca carefully deadheading some lupins, I said, "Where is she?" "Oh, up in the fruit trees by the apples, maybe," she replied. I turned toward the orchard, and then I saw her. A thin, perfectly shaped, gorgeous woman dressed in a pure white sundress, her tan perfectly even, in extreme contrast to my farmer's tan. She was the polar opposite to what I looked like. She hadn't seen me yet as she browsed, pausing to read every tag on every tree. I walked, slowly dreading the moment when she turned around and saw me. I was so dirty, and she looked so perfect. All of a sudden, she turned and saw me. She turned, and seeing me, a huge smile crossed her perfectly made-up face. Turning, she ran toward me, exclaiming, "Oh, you must be Laura. I'm so happy to finally meet you." Am I supposed to know this woman? My mind raced with the possibilities of who she might be. At the same time, taking in this woman, her dress, her perfectly applied makeup, her gorgeous hair, and her sparkly sandals. The stark contrast to the dirty, dark, messy figure that I was at the moment. But she didn't seem to notice any of that, and threw her arms around me in a huge hug. Inwardly, I cringed as I tried to slide out of this stranger's arms. I was dirty, and now she probably was too. She was a stranger, and I don't hug strangers. She was happy, I was grumpy, and this interaction certainly wasn't helping. As she stepped back, she kept talking away. She was repeating over and over as her arms were spread out, and she practically twirled around in excitement, saying over and over, "This is your life? I can't believe this is your life. How did you get so lucky? This is your life?" I looked at this lovely woman twirling in my garden, and over the next 30 seconds, as she gushed over and over, my mind raced. I thought of the garden we had slaved away at that still wasn't done, the pile of bills on my table, the prep I needed to do for farmer's market, my thirsty plants, my broken wash machine, my beyond messy house, the list of things I had to do that was a mile long. This was my life. The injured husband, the bills, the frustration, and one problem after another. What was this lady even talking about? She knew nothing about my life. She was making me mad. I wanted to escape this awkward interaction and go to my house, but I couldn't. At the same time that she was making me mad, I was also intrigued. I still didn't know who she was or what she wanted, and she definitely wasn't taking trees back to LA in her BMW. What was her deal? Her excitement was a little infectious as she darted here and there, gushing about the lawn, the apple orchard, the blooming lilies, even the chickens walking around. I slowly began to see what she was seeing. I glanced around at my yard and the nursery, seeing it through her eyes. It was gorgeous. There were hundreds of daylilies blooming. The flowers in the nursery were perfectly lined up. Everything was in full bloom and as lush as it could be. The lazy pecking chickens were kind of a pretty sight with my son lying on the lawn watching them. My daughter was still gathering flowers in her pigtails and mud boots. I spent the next hour with this stranger, this long-lost, distant cousin of Warren's from California, exclaiming the history of our property, the Hill homestead, and showing her the gardens and the nursery stock. At 4 p.m., when I finally headed for the house in that long-anticipated shower, I was overcome with this incredible feeling of peace, of contentment, of happiness. This was my life. It was messy and stressful and at times discouraging, but it was also spontaneous, beautiful, and rewarding. This woman, who looked so perfect on the outside, had her own sad story of addiction, abuse, and depression that she was struggling to overcome. And she had returned to her roots as a way of healing, and those roots had led her to my house, to me. Jesus never ever promised us an easy life, and I think we so often compare our lives to others, a family member, a friend, even a stranger, and think, "Oh, my life is so hard compared to theirs. I got the raw end of the deal." But we all got the raw end of the deal when we've sinned, and it is up to us to live our lives to their fullest with a positive attitude and faith that God really does know best. We so often dwell on the negative, and we can always find things to drag us down, and it's easy to stay in that negative space. But Jesus never intended or wanted us to live that way. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 18 says, "Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Jesus Christ." After that hot July day, I realized I could always find good in every situation. My attitude changed, and now that we are through that rough patch that I just told you about, I can see the wonderful things that came out of it for our family. God does know best. So the verse that I want to leave you all with is our scripture. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. First Chronicles 16:34. Dear Jesus, thank you for bringing us all here today, and help us to all remember that you are in control of every situation, even though it may not seem that way. Bless us all as we go our separate ways throughout the week.